Q&A, Mayor Hill to the stage. I would really love to welcome Blake Pelling to the stage and welcome Jack back to the stage as well. All right, so I'm going to give you a chance to ask questions in a moment. So hold your questions in your brains for a moment. All right, these guys have furiously ideated and prototyped some solutions. It's been fast. You've had an opportunity to chat to the students and get a read on their ideas. What I'd love to spend sort of 10 to 15 minutes talking about is what do they do to kind of translate what's on paper to something powerful that people are going to buy into? Because the prototype is one thing, but then stepping up on stage in a few minutes and kind of selling that idea, what are the parts that make a compelling pitch? I'll start with you, Jenny. What are the ideas, when you think about you would be inundated with ideas for the region, how do those ideas capture your attention?
Well, the ideas that appear to be applicable for the bulk of the community, that can engage all of the community where possible, and that's not always the case. Ideas that I can I won't say dumb down, but really is dumbed down so everyone understands it. So it's about pitching something that appeals to the broad community and about being able to sell it to the lowest common denominator.
We use this word simplexity sometimes to talk about that. It might be a complex idea, but you need to explain it in a simple way so that people can grasp it, I think.
Yeah, you do. So we're trying to introduce FOGO in the community, food and other organics, getting people to consider a third bin. Now, for kids in this room, that's understandable. They get that because it's about the environment and about the world they're going to live in the next 50 years. But when you're dealing with a person who, let me call them, and I use my husband as the example, white, over 60 male, and trying to convince them about recycling and washing things and dividing things into bins. If I can get him to do it, I can get anyone to do it.
Excellent. All right, so pitch to the 60-year-old white man in the room. If you can sell it to them, we're in. Blake, you've been on the stage pitching, or in a room, pitching ideas more times than you can probably count. After years of crafting your safety culture pitch, what do you kind of think are the hallmarks of a compelling pitch?
We have to make it something that when the person who's being pitched to has to care about the problem that you're solving. So it's one thing to say, oh, you know, we're solving recycling, and we all know what that means. We all know that it matters. But can you go a layer deeper? Can you tell us why it matters? Can you connect me emotionally with why that matters? Get me invested to the point where I'm thinking, yes, I agree. We should solve this. Please let the next thing that comes out of your mouth help be part of solving this because I'm interested now. So connect me emotionally to why we're solving this thing.
Awesome. If you remember back to your English classroom and we talk about the powers of persuasion, there's like these three elements, ethos, pathos, logos. So I might be triggering anybody who didn't love that part of English, but ethos is talking about your credibility. So why are you the right person to solve the problem? Pathos is that emotional connection, and then logos is the facts and statistics that make what you're saying true. So looking at the combination of those three elements, but particularly what Blake's talking about is that pathos, that emotional engagement to the problem that compels me to care about what you care about. What about you, Jack? What kind of advice would you give these guys? Certainly you've pitched more times than you can possibly count to. What do you reckon are the critical components that make a great pitch?
Yeah, I think going third is always pretty easy because you get some great ideas from the other two, but absolutely spot on. It's got to be approachable, first of all. So when I spoke to you guys earlier today, I could have started in one of many, many different ways, but what I really wanted to do when I got up here was to show you that I grew up here just like you, that I knew the schools that you're from. I've probably been, played at the same sporting clubs as you and so on. So it has to be approachable for people. People have to be able to see themselves in that. So approachable, inclusive as well. What the mayor said there about the lowest common denominator, the lowest part of the group, can they be involved? But also, how can others be involved in what you're trying to solve? Because you can't do it alone. And the third thing would be actionable. By nature, us human beings, we're beasts of action. Okay, we want to be involved, we want to do it, but it has to be clear for people and decision makers how they're going to be actually able to do it. So I think approachable, inclusive, and actionable are really important.
Awesome. I want to talk about, I think, we know the research. Public speaking is one of the things that people are most fearful of. The three of you have to get up and do it all of the time. Raise your hand if public speaking is in your top 3 worst fears. Yes. Okay, interestingly, the Future of Work research would identify that it's one of the critical skills that you need to navigate the future of work, because a really pretty CV will get you in the door for an interview, but your ability to speak in a compelling and relatable way to somebody in the interview is what gets you the job. And so at school, we often think these presentation skills is this multimodal persuasive speech with our text in front of us and the PowerPoint behind us. But when we break this notion down, what we're really talking about is connecting to other people. Our ability to show up as who we are and then relate to the person that's in front of us in a really powerful way. Jenny, I'd love to ask you, when you think about maybe some advice for these guys before they jump up and pitch, because you're one of the judges, so this is, they're pitching to you. What kind of advice would you give them before they get up? We've talked about that relatability, we're talking about the lowest common denominator, but if we come back to the function of speaking in a compelling way, what are some of the things that draw you in?
Know your topic, so that if I ask you a question, you can give me an answer just like that. So you've really got to understand the topic you're pitching and be really invested in it, and that will come out in your pitch.
Blake, what do you reckon?
I agree completely with Mayor Hill, and I would also say just be you. Like, nobody here is interested in great performance. Like, hi, I'm Candy, and I'm really excited to be here this afternoon, and I really want to tell you about my idea that I thought was really exciting. And like, nobody needs that. We actually want to hear your idea. Like, if you're shy and none of that actually matters. You just deliver straight down the barrel. You tell us about your idea, and we're hooked instantly. So be authentic. Show us that you care about the thing that you're talking about, rather than feeling like you have to deliver some performance, because we're not here to perform. This is all about the ideas.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anyone that gets up here and pitches with a, hi, I'm Jack, that's rubbish. You've already lost 3 or 4 seconds, okay? So people like Mayor Hill are very, very busy all the time. And most decision makers, most funding bodies, they see 1,000 of you. So hey, what is your point of difference? And how can you be absolutely direct and to the point? Because the one thing that I see all the time, well, certainly that I've worked on over the last 5 years, is doing media. So I love doing radio because you sort of just talk the whole time and chat away and all of that. But most of the time when Mayor Hill goes to do a TV interview, they're only going to take 1 or 2 sentences out of there. And, they may not be kind to you either, so you've got to get them absolutely right. So those lines there are the things that your audience will take away. So for me, we were working on a speech just last night, and we were talking about LiteHaus, how it grew from the suitcases to shipping containers. Now, you'll remember that. You'll walk away and remember that. You have to leave that lasting impression, and it can just be 1 sentence. Don't talk too much, talk to the point.
Questions from the floor. Who's got like a burning question they want to throw at these public speaking experts? That's what I'm calling you now. That's officially your label. Feel free to change your LinkedIn. I know that's the line you're going to roll with. Question from the front.
What is safety culture?
Amazing question. Blake, tell us about safety culture and the story.
The question was, what is safety culture? I haven't heard of it, so there's a bit of a diss in there as well.
Backhanded.
SafetyCulture is a software company that started in Townsville. Today, it's valued at over $2 billion, employs 700 people around the world, and has acquired a whole bunch of other software companies as well.
Blake, so did you say billion?
Yeah, valued at over $2 billion.
Billion.
Yeah, billion. It's difficult to wrap your head around how much money that is. None of us have this pile of $2 billion cash, but enough investors have poured money into it now that, and it creates enough, it makes over $100 million a year in revenues, a bajillion dollars, whatever. Big company, very successful. God, that sounds like Donald Trump. But it started in Townsville with just a few folks in a garage in Mount Low 12 years ago. I was lucky enough to be one of those folks, and today SafetyCulture is a homegrown success story that is now growing very fast globally.
What does it do?
The
Give me
benefit
the
that got us to the big show was a checklist app for doing inspections. So an app that allows any business in, like Kennard's Hire with those portable toilets out the back, they probably need to make sure that each one of those things was clean and ready to go before the day started. Someone probably walked around with a checklist and went, number 47, good to go, number 48, good to go. You know, and so there's just really basic ability to ask a question, get an answer, and to know that everything's been taken care of. Well, we made a little app to do that, and turns out that it's hugely in need all over the world.
Awesome. So it's a fancy checklist.
That's all it is. That's really all it is. I should have just said that. When you asked that, I should have just told you the facts.
Lowest common denominator right here. I think what's really interesting about the SafetyCulture story is that it was this problem, this distinct problem that a group of people had, and it was this burdensome problem that was costing people time, and inevitably time is money. So by making a process more efficient and taking away the errors that might have sat in that process, you create a product that's in high demand because it's faster to do. You're reducing any of the chances of issue or problem, and therefore that's something that people are going to invest in because it makes their life easier. At the core of it, the best ideas solve problems for people. They make things easier or better for the user that's going to be engaging with them. I have one opportunity for one question. Who is going to be the brave soul that throws their hand up into the sky? Oh, I love it. Down the front.
What's a good way to start off a pitch that will grab your audience?
If you're an English teacher, it's your sizzling start. If I hark back to, I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for triggering that in all of you. But yes, my background is as an English teacher. I'm just regressing back to my Shakespeare days and my sizzling start days. To finish with, what's some of the best ways you've seen people open? Like that first 10 seconds that really draws you in and captures attention. Jack, I'll start with you.
I think it starts with the why. You know, if you've only got 60 seconds, you've got to get straight down to the point. So I think it's about the why. Why am I up here? Why am I talking? So it's short, it's sharp, it's blunt. But it has to be, people use stats and things like that. It has to be a personable, approachable piece of information. So just by saying, you know, that 20% of people experience X, well, that's great, but who are the 20%? It's about trying to make those human beings, you know, your partners, your friends, your colleagues, your workmates, and so on. So I think short and sharp, the why, the absolute issue that you are trying to solve, and then the next 60 seconds you move so quickly from that problem, and by the end of it you've got an actionable, inclusive and approachable solution.
I've seen all manner of hooks to get people engaged in a presentation, everything from hilarious to emotional to, you know, like some sort of physical stunt to get people's attention. Ooh. But if I was to just choose one for you that might be applicable and that might help you engage the audience with the problem, is a very powerful and very succinct question. Can you ask a question of the audience and then pause, just give them a few seconds to think about the answer and start to formulate the answer and invite them into how much do they care about this problem or how might they solve it. And in that space, as they start thinking about it, then you move on and you've got their attention. So that's one way you might do it.
Look, I agree with both the guys here on stage. It's about saying, having that first hook is why this is important, why we want to deal with this issue. It's here. It could be a problem around simple things like plastic is a problem. We see 100 million tonnes dropped into the ocean causing microplastics in our animal feed. This is the problem. We think we've got a solution to cut that down. So, you know, what is it? What are you going to do to solve it?
Gosh, there's some really rich advice there. I think, you know, thinking about the fact that if I don't care about your problem, I'm not going to care about your solution. So drawing people into why the problem matters, I think, is that critical first step. Then clearly articulate in a concise way that appeals to the lowest common denominator what your solution is. So step it through really concisely. And then maybe you could sell the dream at the end. With support for this idea, what is the potential of where this could go? Now, we're going to take a 5-minute mini reset. And at the end of this 5 minutes, I'm going to welcome Mayor Hill back to the stage, and I will also reveal the teams that are in the final. So you have 5 minutes if you need to shift anything in your pitch, quickly grab a drink. We'll see you back.